When are you leaving and how long are you going for?
Okay, so I leave on Easter Monday, and Easter Monday I'll fly in the evening to Oslo, stay in Oslo the evening. Following morning, fly north to North Norway to a town called Tromsø, which is significantly further north, and then from Tromsø connect to another plane to go to a group of islands called Svalbard. And we'll be staying in a town called Longyearbyen, and pretty remote place. It's a small town, very Arctic-like, not much going on there, and it's really the last stop for all people who go on expeditions to stock up with food. There's a few guest houses there, so you can double check and make sure everything's packed and so on. So we'll stay there 2 to 3 days, try and bond as a team, bit of skiing, making sure once again everything's packed properly. We become very paranoid about have we got everything packed and have we got enough fuel decanted and things like that. So 2 to 3 days of preparation, and then we board a Russian plane to Camp Barneo at 89 degrees north, and that's a floating Russian Geographic Society base, and they build a runway on the ice, and then we'll land there, have a quick tour around. They observe the hole in the ozone layer because they're directly underneath it, so they try and monitor how big it is and some of the problems and local issues there, the reducing sea ice and things like that. Have a tour there, and then we get helicoptered to a reasonable size ice flow. So we'll have a ground crew that will be monitoring the flow movements and looking for flow depths to try and find one that's good for a helicopter to land on. We'll go and land on that, and then the helicopter leaves us. And from that point on, we're just heading north for between 8 and 20 days.
And take us through who's in the team as well. Who's
okay, so the gentleman leading the expedition is Borge Ausland, probably one of the most acclaimed polar explorers. He's crossed Antarctica a number of times and also the North Pole, the only person ever to have got to the North Pole in the winter. It's a pretty inhospitable place in the winter. So with himself there'll be 2 other polar explorers that have just come back from Antarctica, a Norwegian entrepreneur and myself. So a group of 5 of us in total.
Okay, and take us through as well the sort of kind of things to expect as you kick off from there, what's going to be on the schedule and how you're going to be getting through the days.
So the day's pretty repeatable. The first problem is water. There's plenty of seawater around, but not a lot to drink. So what we'll be doing first thing every morning, we'll be spending about 3 hours melting snow and melting ice to make enough water each for the day, and obviously for the porridge first thing in the morning. So 3 hours of laying in a sleeping bag, melting snow. Is quite a luxury though, because the heat from the stoves, they're about 4 kilowatt stoves, so the tent gets quite nice and warm, 20 degrees, very nice cosy place to be first thing in the morning. Once we've done that, we pack up camp and we start dragging our entire kit, life, tent, everything, heading north. Try and eat every 20 minutes. We'll have some natural breaks every few hours. We will stop and have a bite to eat for lunch and admire the views, and then push on again until about 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, and then dinner in the evening will be what are called expedition packs. They're a guaranteed 500 calorie intake of good stuff. Reindeer casserole was my favourite when I was in Norway. It was really delicious.
Wasn't favourite with the reindeer though?
No, they didn't like it so much, but it tasted yum. So we have that, and then try and consume whatever water we've got left to make sure it goes to good use, because it will freeze overnight, and then sleep, which is meant to be quite easy.
And how do you gauge the time? How do you plan and trek?
So that's we were chatting earlier. That's quite tough because it's permanent daylight, so the sun will just be rotating around on the horizon. We'll be going purely off what time we've got on our watch, so we know how many hours we're walking for. We're going to be trying to get 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. We know that it's going to be 3 hours melting snow every morning, so we become quite rhythmic, and once we're in the routine, 24 hours, every 24 hours look the same thereafter.
And we can see the pulk over there, so can you take us through a bit of the equipment that you're taking with us, and what you'll be wearing and the kinds of things that are going to be coming with you?
Yeah, okay, so the pulk is my equipment store, if you like. Quite a lot of petrol will be in the pulk. All the stoves run on petrol. It's the only thing that you can get to burn in sub 40 degrees. So quite a lot of weight at the back, 20 to 25 litres of fuel in each pulk. Then also within the Polk we'll have our tents, sleeping bags, down jackets and various other clothing equipment. And just one change of clothes, so we don't go with lots and lots of clothes. We will have the same clothes on the entire expedition, and we just have a dry set in there in case we fall through the ice, that we've got something warm to change into. Clothing wise, surprisingly not much clothing given the temperature, so I'm wearing my salopettes here. These are just windproof, and this jacket's windproof as well, but underneath this I'll just have a base layer. So I've got a base layer with sort of knitted in, like a foil if you like, and it returns quite a lot of heat back into the body. That's pretty much all I'll be wearing most of the time. Some of the gloves, we did have them around, big bag on the top, yeah. Your hands get cold very quickly, so I'll actually have 2 pairs of gloves on before I put these on. So I'll have some quite skin tight, sort of very thin synthetic gloves, and then we've got some woolen gloves and down-filled ones on top of that as well, so about 4 pairs of gloves.
What about protection for your face, goggles and hats and things?
I've got various masks and hats, so I've got a wind stopper, balaclava, face protection as well. Then on top of that I'll have my goggles, and then we've also got some wind protection for the top of my head as well. The wind's the key thing really. It's important to get any sweat away from the body so it doesn't freeze, because you get hypothermia very quickly, but the thing that really gets you is the wind, so everything will be completely windproof. And then once we're fully covered up, you've then got the problem of not being too hot, so it's an on-off, on-off, on-off all day. Opening up vents in the jacket to allow the wind to come in and keep you dry and not too hot.
And fully loaded, how much does the Polk weigh?
It's going to be anywhere between 70 and 100 kilos. A lot of that will be dependent on personal choice of chocolate and things like that. Typically full, it will be about 50 kilos. I've got a different type of bag I want in mine, that's another couple of kilos. So it will be around the 70, 80 kilo, I suspect, once the fuel's in there as well.
Okay. And what kind of survival skills have you had if we're talking about coming into contact with wildlife while we're out there?
So there's not too much wildlife. The seals generally get out of your way and move quite quickly. Polar bears, we're hoping not to see any, but the gentleman at the back of the 5 of us will be fully armed. He'll have an array of interesting tools to try and keep polar bears away, flare guns, and obviously things that have got a bit more stopping power.
And what kind of training have you done to lead up to this point, both yourself and with the team, so that you're ready?
So I've been training mentally for a year. Physically,
I do a lot of mental training as well.
Physically, I've been going probably about 10 months of hard training, lots of running up until November last year, and then I've suffered a tendon problem in my Achilles tendon, so I've stopped my running, so it's now very much rowing, cycling and swimming that I do. The big thing that's more sort of specialised for what I'm doing is tyre dragging. So I've been dragging car tyres around the villages where I live, up to 4 or 5 hours on a weekend. I get quite a few interesting looks as I go past people's houses. Even people coming out taking photos recently as well. And then since I've...
Men in white coats, right?
Yeah, I've managed to dodge those today. And then I've got some roller skis as well now, and since learning to ski last month I've been dragging car tyres with roller skis, which adds to the entertainment of the neighbours. So that's that's
put the
quite
tyres
tough.
off the rollers.
And the amount of cyclists that come past and say you should turn it on its side, it's much easier. It's remarkable. So yeah, that's been the hardest bit, and it actually doesn't feel too bad when you start off. You think, oh, it's not too bad, a couple of X5 tyres behind you or something, they're not too heavy, but after about an hour they feel like you're dragging a house, and after 4 hours it starts to really hurt. So yeah, it's been quite tough, the tyre dragging, but it's got me well prepared.
Your injury, that's going to be alright while you're out there as well?
Yeah, it's
not too bad?
Quite inflamed, and I've been guaranteed that my Achilles tendon won't snap, which is really good news to hear. So on that basis I'm fit to go, but it is very painful. But it's not going to cause any lasting damage.
Okay. And when you get to the destination, what's your plan? Have you got how long are you going to be there for? What are you going to do? Any flags involved?
So definitely fly a few flags. We're all going to take a cake, and we're not allowed to open the cake until we get to the North Pole. So we'll be sitting down and having a cake and some high fives. It's funny, we could be there a week. We really don't know when we're going to get picked up, so when we get there we request evacuation. But there's only one helicopter in a massive space, and that helicopter could be rescuing someone. It might have had to go back to Russia for a service. We have no influence over these things, so whilst we may request evacuation, we may just have to sit at the pole and wait for a few days. Hopefully not, because the anticlimax, I'd imagine, if you still camp there 3 or 4 days later and you're not man-hauling anywhere and you need the exercise to be able to sleep and keep warm, and just sitting still for a few days is going to be quite frustrating, so hopefully not.
And sort of lastly, rounding off, what are your reasons really for taking the trip? What are your reasons, and what was your reason behind the charity?
Okay, so firstly the charity, I've seen children with leukemia, they used to be called, they're now called Children with Cancer. I've seen them in action, and they're a terrific, absolutely terrific charity. They spend a lot of their time and money both investing in research and the causes of cancer and the treatments for it, but they also do more sort of family-based support for children with terrible illness. So they're an absolute great charity. I've always supported them and think that they're going to benefit really well out of this. So reasons for doing it personally, I have this need to raise the bar every time I do something, and I'm probably the strangest marathon runner, strangest shaped marathon runner you've seen before. I've done a marathon and a half back to back the year before last. Was considering perhaps 7 marathons in 7 days for this year, and then just started developing this feeling for the polar region, wanted to explore a bit as well. Found that I could combine the two, and actually went down the expedition road of going down the man-hauling. It's got its physical and mental challenges, which is what really motivates me. I believe that you can actually achieve anything you want in life, and you can be anything you want, and you just have to go out there and try, and that keeps me going to some extent. In the tough days, I think that will help get me through.
What are your plans when you come back? Any next trips on the horizons, or planning to take a well-earned break?
There's plenty going on in my mind, but at the moment, the focus will be definitely getting this one nailed. It's a big challenge. I need to remain focused on the job in hand. Coming back, looking forward to a nice rest, a summer of relaxing and a few barbecues perhaps, and not training all of the time. So.
While you're out there, how are you going to keep everyone at home updated on progress? Have you got a tracker or?
Yeah, I've got a personal locator beacon, which is fantastic. It's what it's actually going to do is broadcast my position every 2 to 3 hours straight to a satellite, and this will all be trackable and linked into a map of the world on the Vtesse website. So if you go to Vtesse.com, you'll be able to actually see where I am on the planet as I make my way north. I'm hoping to give an update every couple of hours, so it's relatively real time.